It's been too long since Crazy Chiquita was in the house, reporting live from Los Angeles, California. Crazy Chiquita is in the building. If you're excited that Crazy Chiquita is back, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. Crazy Chiquita or not, let's get to it, because there's something I want to talk to you about that I think comes up a little bit too much with women who've got good dating standards, hopefully like you. Perhaps this is a familiar scenario for you because it definitely would happen to me when I was dating. I will freely admit that. You have a guy start paying attention to you, however that looks for you. Maybe it's at school, maybe it's in college, well, that's school, maybe it's at work, whatever. He's texting you, he's asking you on a date, whatever the scenario looks like. And either you, or maybe this is a friend you've watched do this before, either you know right off the bat, or you come to realize as time goes on, this guy is not right for me. This guy doesn't meet my standards. However, you start to make excuses. You're like, well, whatever. And you kind of have your standards and you just toss them out the window, and maybe your friend's like, Stephanie, what about your standards? And you're like, what standards are you talking about? The goal of talking about this is to prevent hurt, because that's what I'm all about here at Emily Wilson YouTube. Is I want to prevent hurt for you guys. That's a lot of why I talk about a lot of these things, because the less hurt you have, the happier I am. Because throwing out your standards right out the window, throwing out the window what you know you're truly, really, honestly looking for in a relationship will always be a recipe for hurt. Throwing it out and saying, whatever, it doesn't matter. Who cares? What standards? It's always gonna lead you to a point in time where you're like, that was a mistake. I never should have thrown my standards out the window. What are some good ways to prevent this? One of the best things is when your mind is clear, right? When you've got clear vision and a clear heart, write out physically, asking myself the question, what am I looking for in dating? What am I looking for in a man? What am I looking for in a dating relationship? And write that out. We've talked about what standards are realistic and what standards are not realistic. Realistic standards include a man who is honest, is genuine, is hardworking, is kind, things like that. Unrealistic standards include 6'3", blonde, great singer, plays the guitar. You get what I'm saying. Write out, what am I looking for in a place that you can reference later on throughout your time as a dating woman or man, because I know there are men here. Shout out as usual. And when you're getting to know a guy, you have this as a reference. You can use your head and you can use your heart in sync with one another. My heart when I'm with you. To be getting to know this guy. Again, maybe it's right off the bat. You're already making excuses. You're like, I know he's not a good guy, but he's saying nice things, whatever. Or it's as time goes on, as you begin to date him, you can go back to that to say, what was I looking for before this cute guy started talking to me? Is this what I wrote out and said that I wanted with a clear head before this guy started texting me, hey beautiful, hello gorgeous, and asking me on dates? Go back to it and ask yourself the question, is this matching up? Is this what I said that I wanted? Is this meeting my expectations for the kind of guy that I want to invest my time and effort and energy and heart into? Because when you write that out, right? You write, my expectations, my standards are a man who's clear, not confusing, a man who's honest, a man who makes me a priority, whatever those realistic expectations and standards may be. You can go back and look at that. And when you meet a guy who's not meeting your standards, right? For instance, a kind of guy who doesn't make you a priority, the kind of guy who throws you breadcrumbs. See Exhibit A. A man who sometimes makes you a priority, but doesn't really intentionally pursue and calls you when it's convenient and asks you out when it's convenient. And he throws a breadcrumb. He's like, breadcrumb. And you're like, oh my gosh, he texted me. And then you don't hear from him for 3 weeks. And then another breadcrumb. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you go back to your thing and you're like, oh, actually, I wanted to date and talk to a guy who makes me my priority, not a guy who takes me on a date every once in a while and calls me every once in a while, but shows that he either is not interested, which I would hope that you would date a person who's interested in you and really cares about you, or just doesn't care, right? And I would hope that you would want to date a man who actually cares. And instead of saying, I know what my standards are deep down in my heart, but this guy is cute and I don't care, you get to look at those expectations and those things that you wrote out with a clear head and say, girl, listen up. This is not what you're looking for. This is not meeting your expectations. This is not the standards that we've, right, you talking to yourself, we've set for ourselves before this whole thing began, before this guy ever even looked at me. And you gotta have a real talk with yourself to say, this is not matching up. This is not good for me, and actually take action out of that. Because when you take action out of that, that is where you prevent the hurt. And most times in life, we have the opportunity and we are the only person who can prevent our hurt in many different scenarios. Not always, but a lot of times. And we choose not to. We choose to see all the signs and say, whatever, because it feels good when a guy pays attention to you, and it feels good when a guy talks to you and asks you on dates and texts you, hello, gorgeous. But to think with that clear head is absolutely key to your health, your well-being, and your happiness when it comes to the crazy world of dating. Even though he's so beautiful, even though he's whatever, I don't care. Even though X, Y, or Z, I have to end this. I have to cut this off because I deserve better, or this guy and I, our values don't align. What's important to each of us doesn't align, and I want something different than this. And I have to make myself available for something different than this and something that meets my standards. Because if I am wasting my time when I know it's not right, I am not open to meeting that guy who does. Because I'm caught into this whole heart-hurting situation. And that's not what I know that you want, and that's not what I want for you. End of story, okay? So when a guy pays attention to you, feel all the things, but absolutely never forget what you were looking for in the first place. And don't ever, ever, ever be afraid to protect your heart from the hurt that you can prevent in your life. Boy, has this been fun. This is Crazy Chiquita, loving you from Los Angeles, wanting the best for you from Los Angeles. That's all for today. Talk to you soon. I think my arms are gonna fly away. Bye!